My bestie is off tonight, but I'm here with a buddy of mine, Mikey Witous. Mikey, how are you?
Good. How are you, man?
I am good. It's been a long day, dude.
I know. Yeah.
It's been a really, really long day for me. I rolled out of bed this morning for work at like 6 o'clock, which isn't unusually early, but I had to hit the ground running. You ever have one of
Yeah.
those days where like you hit the ground and like you just literally don't stop? And I like this is kind of the first chance I've had to really sit down today. So it's been a busy one. For sure. Well, for those that are not familiar with you, Mikey is the self-professed and the actual fittest dwarf on earth, fittest in the adaptive division, short stature adaptive division of the CrossFit Games. So, first of all, I'll start with congratulations on all your past accomplishments. You've had hell of a CrossFit career for the last couple of years.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. It was unexpected when I started CrossFit because obviously there wasn't really much of adaptive vision, especially one for a dwarf. So it's cool to see where it's all gone.
Yeah. How many people are in your division now?
This past year in the Open, I believe we had about 14 males signed up. We had two females, which is uh, more than we had last year.
Right.
We had I think we had zero last year, and so we had two this year. And then for the males, the year prior, I think we had seven in the division, but only like six did all the workouts.
Right.
So, but this year is 14, and all 14 did all of them, and so it's a
That's
huge
all.
improvement.
Do they don't segment you guys by age at all, right? It's literally just if you
Yeah,
fall into this
no.
division, this is where you are.
Yeah, with the smaller population of adaptives, it's just harder
Right.
to get the volume to even have athletes for anyone.
It's funny. I think most of the CrossFit community, as much as we tend to follow the games, unless you're part of the adaptive division, I think a lot of people aren't familiar with some of the rule differences or even how you qualify for certain divisions. So what is the standard to be considered short stature? Like what's the range?
Yeah, so based off of the rule book from what I've taken, it typically goes with a diagnosis of having some sort of dwarfism or skeletal dysplasia that is proportional or non-proportional limb length to torso, or anyone under 4'11". So just because you're under 4'11" doesn't mean that you're eligible. You have to have a form of actual diagnosed dwarfism.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, it's funny. Because I get a lot of jokes sent to me and people send me a lot of really bad things. And the one joke people always like to make, because there's so many CrossFitters that aren't tall, is, oh, they should be in the short stature division. And I tell them all the same thing. I'm like, you don't want any part of that. Like Mikey can out squat all of you assholes. You guys do not want to compete in a squat contest for
yeah.
sure. What is your max back squat? It's crazy.
My lifetime is I believe it was 485 is what I've hit. I've only had one attempt at 500 and it failed miserably. Won't be trying that again. It's not worth it to me.
Dude, 485 is ridiculous. I don't care who you are. That's a ridiculous amount of weight to move.
Yeah, I I have passed that goal in life. Don't want to do that much squatting anymore. It's not worth it. It doesn't make me any fitter. So it's
When you
just
got into CrossFit, were you naturally strong, or did you have to build a lot of strength in the time you've been doing it?
um, I had a good foundation, probably a really good foundation actually because of my parents. When I was younger, I have incredible amounts of ADD and I'm all over the place. And so my parents, as punishment, instead of spanking or timeouts or anything, was push-ups, and I always had to do push-ups. And so I ended up having to do lots of push-ups because of my ADD. And punishments would start at like 100 push-ups for a punishment. Um, and it used to be a joke in the neighborhood to like be like, who thinks they could keep up with Mikey doing push-ups? Who can do more push-ups than him? And it was so a lot of that came from that. And then I've always been an active kid, and so I got into taekwondo and got my black belt when I was like 10, and then football and then wrestling, and just always been wanting to play the sports that most dwarfs probably wouldn't, because it's contact and uh, there's big size differences in those sports sometimes.
Bro, if my parents had made me do push-ups because of my ADD, I'd have the largest arms you've ever seen. My chest and arms would be obnoxious at this
Yeah.
point. And I should do that for myself now, to be honest. Like every time I'm getting distracted, I should just go do some push-ups. I'd probably knock out Murph in like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
just be done.
Yeah. I'm glad push-ups come so easy to me now, because of CrossFit and stuff like that, and I get to get a free pass in those workouts when a bunch of push-ups come in. I'm like, oh well, this is.
What age did your parents get you into sports?
Um, I didn't like start super early. Like I wasn't. I because of dwarfism, I had to have some surgeries when I was younger, and so I was basically from the age of 2 to 4 in casts. So I wasn't like doing like t-ball or soccer or anything like that. And those weren't sports that really I was attracted to in any way, mostly because there was a lot of running involved and it doesn't work with me.
Right.
So I think I joined Taekwondo when I was like 6. And it was never really a question with my parents. Like I think they did they could write a handbook for how to raise a kid with dwarfism or with a disability and just raise them like your other kids.
Right.
Because oftentimes I think parents will get caught up in it, and they'll protect them more than they should. And I'm a parent. I know how that
Right.
is. It can be hard. But
You have siblings?
yeah, I have an older sister, and then a younger sister and a younger brother. So I'm the second, but I always joke I'm the first because I'm the first son.
That's
Basically the first.
that sounds like my family. My mom sends me a text the other day that her and my dad were talking about something, and they were talking about how 2 of their kids have the affinity for using the F word, and I have 2 sisters. I'm like, well, Mom, that's just the way girls are, And of course, they were talking about me, but
Yeah,
it's always good having 2 siblings, I think. But being the first or the only of something, I was the only boy too, so
yeah,
it's the kind of the best.
yeah. It's I, it's it was cool. I don't know, like a lot. Like my wife, she grew up in a family, and it was all 3 of her sisters, or her 2 sisters and her, were all adopted, and they were all little people, but her parents were average. And like part of me is like, would I have wanted that? Would I have wanted to be with all like dwarfs and be like around everyone, or be around siblings who were all 5'8", 5'10"?
Right.
And I think I had it the way it was supposed to be, and I enjoy it.
So is that the term for people that aren't little people? Is average the term?
Yeah, average height, because at least in the little people community, people try to look away from saying the words like normal or regular
Right.
or anything like that, just because it always goes back to, well, what is normal, what is regular.
I don't know. As a CrossFitter, I felt kind of offended. I'm like, oh, I'm average. What the
Yeah,
hell?
you're just average.
Just average. It feels like a slight. I kind of like it. It's like
Yeah,
a comeback. Oh, well, you're average. Okay.
yeah. And then there's people like my brother-in-law who's 6'7". They're giants.
Yeah, well, that is giant. That's by anyone's standards, 6'7". I was at work today, and we had this group come in, high school students, and they were touring the bank. And I'm not kidding you, dude. Every kid in this group, these are juniors and seniors, but everyone were taller than me, and I'm 6 feet tall. I'm like, when did teenagers become 6'1", 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah,
There was one of them, one of these kids was a football player. They told me he just got a full ride to West Virginia, and he looked like it, like he's a lineman. You know how big those guys are. Like the kid was 6'3", probably 280.
yeah.
It's like an eclipse had walked in the room. Like all the light went out, and just blind. It was amazing. Such a huge athletic kid. It was really impressive. Really impressive. Where did you grow up? Where was this?
Born, raised, and currently living in South Bend, Indiana. Always lived pretty close to Notre Dame, and so I've always seen those big, giant football players.
Right.
They were you always saw them around town. Went to school with a few that ended up going to Notre Dame, and just giants. And yeah, it's the kids are growing bigger. And I coached wrestling for 7 years after high school, and it was middle school, and there's kids who were like 6'10" or 6'7" as like an eighth grader. I'm like, that is just outrageous. You guys are so tall. I'll take a foot of that, please.
No, South Bend.
Hmm?
I said I know that South Bend is a college town, but it's still kind of farm country out where you are, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty farmy. You can't go too far without seeing one. Corn and soybeans everywhere.
I know when we made the last time I made the drive to Madison for the CrossFit games, I felt like it was just like an endless sea of cornfields.
Oh yeah.
And all I could think about was the movie Hoosiers. That was it. Just like,
Yeah.
it feels like the South, even though it isn't the South.
Yeah, it's always funny, like when you'll just go a little bit farther south than South Bend, and then you'll start hitting like the Kentucky accents, and you're like, wait, I'm still in Indiana. I forget that we're that close that people have Southern accents here.
Yeah, we get that here. Only here it's West Virginia accents.
Yeah,
which is a little different. And you get close to Pittsburgh, they say yins. I don't even know what the hell that means. Is it, I think that's like Ewans or y'all, but it's yins. It's just weird to me. And so you get this kind of weird, like Southern hillbilly kiss your sister kind of accent that comes up in the part. Yeah, it's like weird. Like, and I grew up in Mississippi, so I'm not slamming these guys. Like I've been around the most, Southern of all accents, but it is odd to be in the Midwest. And then all of a sudden, you've come across these Southern accents, very bizarre.
Yeah, it is.
So what was it like growing up in sounds like kind of a big sports community? I mean, like most of these little small towns are like kind of sports communities, and you're getting into this, but you've, got this adaptation or this, I don't know what's the right term. Is impairment I don't even think impairment's the right term. You're just different size than kids. Like, what was that like growing up?
It wasn't like I was saying it to my wife. I don't know if I ever realized, like, at what point that I was like, oh, I'm different. Like, oh, I'm shorter or anything like that. It was just like, I don't know. I grew up with I had a younger brother, I have a younger brother, but he wasn't ever like close enough in age where like we were competitive in sports or anything. But I had cousins who were all right there, and they kind of were the motivators. I'd say I saw them doing things, and then that made me want to do those things. It never. I don't. There's probably a part of my brain that's missing that like told me maybe not a good idea to be an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman in football at that age, or like middle school. And so I'd say just like cousins and friends, like just they definitely pushed me to do sports, and it got me to be active. And I think my parents did a good job of throwing me in there and just being like not never saying no until it was me trying to play football in high school. And our high school was 3,000 students, and like my graduating class was 900. So we had a huge talent pool of football players, and they always I wanted to talk them into letting me play one more year, and they're like, no, man, you're 4 foot even. You're gonna get pummeled. Middle school, these kids haven't hit puberty yet. Now they're hitting puberty, and they're all 6 foot giants. You are not playing football. You're going.
I'm sitting there thinking you have a low center of gravity. Give you the football and let you run it.
Like, yeah.
Am I just being insane to think maybe there's just the weight difference alone would be enough? I don't know.
No, like I always wanted to be the fullback. I wanted to be the guy that lined up right in front of the halfback and they handed it to real quick.
Right.
because I knew that I could get in there, at least like I could fit in the spaces that needed.
Right.
But the safety factor alone was just not. I don't think any of my coaches would have felt good about having me do it, and knowing the spinal complications that come with dwarfism, and just the pure size. Like I'm running into people that are 5 foot plus already
Right.
in middle school. Probably not a good idea. But I don't know if I was missing that part of your brain that tells you maybe this is probably not the best thing to do right now, or with your impairment. But um, yeah, I think my parents did a good job or they did a good job and stopped me at the right time for high school, because God knows what would have happened then.
Was it were the coaches that stopped you or your parents?
Just my parents. The coaches were. If my parents were going to let me, they would have let me, just because they knew my body of work before that like I was a hard worker. I wasn't going to. I was able to protect myself in a way, like knowing what I should and shouldn't do on the field. And but and they wouldn't have. I wouldn't have ever been varsity in high school. I would have just been a backup, and
Right.
so it'd been practice only, really. But my parents, yeah, they're just like, the size is not. It's not safe anymore, like at all.
Yeah, I love the fearlessness though. Did that carry over to CrossFit, you think? I think you have to have kind of a sense of fearlessness to walk into a CrossFit gym as it is. Like, I know I felt like I had to on day one. Did it carry over for you, or it's just you're
Yeah,
wired that way?
there there was definitely some intimidation to it, just like everyone. You go in, and especially I have a similar experience like you went in, you saw Scott and all of them at your gym. I went in and I saw Nick Urankar at mine. It felt like a Greek god. So you're going in there, you're like,
Right.
well, I could be like that, but I doubt it. Like
Right.
I'm not going to be that ever. But it so it was, there was intimidation, but yeah, once I think the first workout I did for my elements or foundations class was Fight Gone Bad, is what he had me do. Obviously, in a way scaled down version to it. Um, and with my wrestling background, that was like the perfect workout. I think he knew it was like giving um, the first one's free to somebody, like the first cigarette free, like
Right.
be like, hey, try this one. It's gonna be
Right.
you're gonna have this feeling that feels really familiar to what you used to do. And it was carbon copy of how it used to feel to get done with a wrestling match.
What's been, I mean, I'm going to make some assumptions here, so just correct me if I'm wrong, but, um, you know, I would imagine you've had to, adapt. I mean, we'll just use the term adapt a lot of the workouts for different reasons. Like was the hardest thing early on for you as you're getting into the normal classes and figuring it out? Was it things you had to figure out on your own, or were you getting like kind of clear instructions around what you needed to do maybe differently than, whoever?
Yeah, I think early on it was kind of it was a definite learning process for me, for knowing what I can and can't do, as far as how I can keep up with others. Um, part of the brain that's missing was also go firing, saying, just go, do it everything like them. Like you've always done it that way, do it just like them. So like it'd be like a workout with a 135-pound barbell, I would have a 135-pound barbell, just like
Right.
wasn't thinking. But now I realize, like, oh, it's about the stimulus, it's about the workout, it's about getting the endurance aspect. So how am I know how it's supposed to feel for them. What do I need to do? And Stouty and all the guys at Wheelwad have been great at helping me, and everyone else in our division, like really kind of figure out the weights. So now it's kind of been easier to, like, when I come into the gym and I look at the board, I know immediately the weights that I'm going to be doing. Um, the the hardest aspect that I didn't really take into consideration was everything grip wise. So everything with the barbell, clean snatches, pull ups, toes to bars, anything with grip. I never really realized how bad our grip is for dwarfism, just because our hands are smaller. So it's harder to grip the full size male bar or the regular pull up bar. And so I really had to focus on like just grip strength, doing a lot of strict pull ups and a lot of rowing. And I feel like some people don't realize that's like how much work had to go into doing it. When they like see me do pull-ups or something, they think, oh well, he's bigger than other dwarfs and that's why he can hold on the bar. It's like, no, I had to put in a lot of fucking time
Right.
and work. Like Nick could attest to it, and all the coaches at 061 could attest to it. Like I would literally just stay after and just do pull-ups and
Is this a hand size issue or a hand strength issue?
yeah, it's a hand size. Like, so my hand, obviously, with my type of dwarfism, it's the full long ass name for it is achondroplasia, and it's basically means the cartilage in the bone. It's kind of like if you're going to water a garden. This is how my wife describes it. If you water a garden, you keep the hose on, the plant's not going to grow anymore because you're just continuously watering it.
Right.
The cartilage, whatever gene is in there, isn't shutting off the growth aspect of it, so nothing's growing because it's firing always. And so my limbs are shorter, and so my hands will be shorter, but my torso is like the same length as an average height person's. So like if you and I were sitting next to each other, you wouldn't notice that I was shorter until I stood up. And I ended up being the same height at the table as I was when I'm standing, whereas everyone else would be higher. So it's just it's just the hands are going to be smaller because of just the limbs, and the appendages will be shorter as well.
So do you adapt by using a 35-pound barbell, or is this just still end up being more of a strength thing, or both?
I use a men's bar. I've tested it both ways. I've tried a trainer bar. I've tried a female bar, and I don't see a difference. It's not the actual like just gripping around it. It's just that the strength is not there. And I think I remember reading once there's something to do with the bowing in our forearms a little bit. Causes like just the way we grip to be a little harder too.
Interesting.
It's
I switched for snatching. I bought an extra barbell for the basement gym, and I bought the 15 kilo, or the lighter one, 25 pounds, and I started using it for snatching. I'm like, where's this thing been my whole life? Because I have big hands and I can I can really get a real tight hook grip. And all of a sudden the snatching became easier. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get allowed to do this probably in the open or in a gym, but man, that's great. It's great in the basement for sure.
Yeah. I every once in a while, like my parents, they do CrossFit as well, and they have a garage gym, and whenever I'm up there, I'll do a workout there, and my mom has a bar, and I'll use hers every once in a while. Yeah, every once in a while I feel it a little bit, like if it's just a light enough of a bar, I can tell the difference. For heavy, like if I was doing a max lift, I don't notice a difference.
Where would your advantages be for typical CrossFit movements? I would imagine deadlifts, squats.
Deadlifts are a tricky one because of the way, one, it's the grip again, but it's also the starting position of us, like with the bar. We're kind of, most people are like, they're kind of longer, tighter position. At least for me, I'm basically in a squat, and so I'm at the bottom of a squat, and it's not a powerful position to get down there to get the bar because of the anatomy of my legs and how it is. But advantages, definitely squats, thrusters, burpees. Gymnastics work, if you have developed this, if you're a short stature athlete and you develop the strength or the grip aspects of it, gymnastics can be pretty easy. Like I can fly through pull-ups, but that came with lots of time and effort.
I've been really intrigued watching your journey the last couple of years, like of seeing the things that you do really well and seeing the things that you are working on. You know, like I've watched you do pull-ups of what, and the one that's always most interesting to me is watching you snatch because you're really good at it, but you have a closer.
Yeah.
Like when I snatch, my hands are wider and the barbell's way overhead when it comes over. And for you, it's like just clearing. And every time you do it, I'm like catching my breath going, please God, don't knock yourself out in this video, but you kill it every time. Like how long did it take you to start getting proficient at some of these Olympic lifts?
Those took me probably the longest. And once again, very fortunate to have the gym that I do with Nick being the owner slash head coach of it. When I started there, I would always go during the day, and I was still in college, and so I was working a part-time job, so I had the day to train there, and I was training with him, and so I work a lot on the Olympic lifts, and snatches are still a work in progress for me, just because, yeah, the closer grip, basically doing a clean grip for a snatch, and uh, I don't know how my shoulders haven't ripped out yet, but I have caught myself in the head a few times.
Well, so have I. So,
Yeah,
you can't use any excuse for that. I do it all the
yeah,
time. So
yeah. I joke that's why I went bald, but if you ever saw my dad, you'd know why I went
maybe
bald.
that's why I went bald. That could be it. I remember one time we were, it was early in my CrossFit career, and my coach at the time, this guy named Travis Page, he ended up going to the games and he finished second in his division. He was a master's athlete in the 40H division, but he was a beast, like total beast, kind of like Nick, like built
Mhm.
like a Greek god. And we were snatching, and I was learning to snatch, and I put one right in the middle of my forehead, literally, like you could hear the bar, darn, and he just looks at me and just shakes his head and walks away. Didn't say a word, just gives me that disapproving shake. It was worse than if he had said something to me. I'm like, dude, at least yell at me. Like, don't just give me the disapproving glare. Like,
Like when your parents say, "I'm not mad, I'm just
yeah,
disappointed."
I'm disappointed. Not mad, I'm disappointed.
Oh, that's way worse. Just be mad.
Yeah. You have semis coming up, right?
Yeah,
Soon.
yeah. Semifinals, June 2nd, I believe, is the start of it, or is at least when the workouts are being posted. Officially signed up and excited for it.
Nice. Well, and the
Excited.
difference for the adaptive division semifinals, or at least in your group, your division, this crown's fittest on earth, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's this is the big show for us. It'll be exciting. It's different than we usually do with the adaptive like qualifiers that we do for like wheel wad or for the open, and it's having to do the 5 workouts in the 4 days is going to be interesting to see how we can do. Obviously, we get a taste of it like when we go to like the wheel wad games,
Right.
but this is a virtual one will be interesting. It'll be fun.
You've been, I think it'd be fair to say, outspoken, and I mean that in the best possible way around, some of the adaptive stuff. And I love that. It's one thing I love about you is that you're not afraid to speak your mind and represent yourself. How did you feel about the open itself and, the first stage and second stage getting to semis? You like the workouts?
Yeah,
Anything you would change? Like, how'd you feel
I,
about it?
I thought the workouts for us were great. I um, I didn't have any issues with any of the programming or anything like that. The I know there were some issues with some of the divisions for like box step ups and stuff like that for people who I think in the neuro divisions, maybe a few other things I can't remember off the head. But overall, for me, I had a great experience. It was I think the workouts were done really well and done well compared to the year prior to. Like so, I think they're learning and growing with us. It's uh, yeah, I have been very outspoken in previous like at the start of it all when everything was going on. Now I've sat down and I've talked to Alec and I've talked to Kevin, and they've kind of talked to me more, and I understand more of what's going on, uh, and and I trust them, and I know they're looking out for us and trying to do the best they can, but also working for a company that's trying to make some money or not have a shit show for a competition, where it's just like a showcase where they have us off to the side doing workouts, and they want it to actually feel like a good event for us, not just have us there to have us there.
Yeah, and I wasn't looking to, gin up any complaints. I think I've been very impressed with what they've been doing and trying to do. I think we got far too much complaining in CrossFit right now as it is. But I also really appreciate people that advocate for themselves. And I think particularly in a division that's underrepresented, which I think that all the adaptive divisions are, and that, again, that's no fault of CrossFit. It's just, you need to get more people into the sport in order for it to be represented. And so I think you have to advocate for yourself. And I've really appreciated the fact that you've been willing to put it out on the line, particularly considering you've got high visibility since you won the thing, right? Like, so I think it's important to do that. So I've appreciated that you did that from the very beginning. And I think it got their attention for whatever that's worth.
Yeah. I've never really been one to just bite my tongue. My wife would say that's probably one of my biggest downfalls. I'm never one to just sit back and, like, if something happens, like, just like let it happen. I usually have a comment for it, and it's not always the best comment for it, but it at least makes me chuckle sometimes.
I don't, I think it's okay to do that though. I mean, I do. I mean, we know each other pretty well. I do the same thing. I think sometimes you just have to get it out, and if nothing else, only for your own, peace, and give you a chance to step back and look. And, we've had that debate often online where, you'll blow something up and I'll ask you a question just so I want an understanding of what's really going on. And then by the time we're done talking it through, we're both like, okay, well, that makes sense, but sometimes it just takes doing that. But I think it's good that you do it, personally. I don't know if the, people in charge of the adaptive division feel that way. I'll let Alec and
no, we're on good terms. We're good.
Good. Hey, we have a question coming in the chat. I wasn't expecting any chat questions. Somebody wants to know how you adapt Murph. That's a good question. You got that. That's coming up for you too.
Yeah.
So, do you adapt it, or you just?
I personally do not. The movements are good for me. If anything, I would adapt the run, but that would be cherry picking for me. I can run a mile. I should run a mile. I do it with a vest, and I also do it on partition, just because, once again, that part of my brain that's missing, that just tells me maybe this isn't the smartest thing to do. But my family's always been very I have a lot of people in the military in my family, and so I lost an uncle in the 80s before I was born, as serving in Beirut, Lebanon. And so hero workouts, especially Murph on Memorial Day, it just hits me, and so I have to go all out. My family, we all get together and we do it at my parents', and my aunt, whose husband was one we lost, is there, and she participates. And so it's just it's one of those things where I can't scale it just because I want to. And we somehow always choose like one of the hottest days of the year, and somehow I end up being in all black, and I don't think I've gotten through it without yakking the last 3 years. So I'm hoping I can get through it this year. It's just that heat. I do not do.
Knock on wood, I have been puke free for my entire CrossFit career. It's going to be a hot one here this year too, or at least I think it is, because it's warm now. Like it's starting to get in the 70s and 80s. And I remember my second or third year doing Murph. I want to say it was my third. Yeah, there was no way it was a degree under 95 degrees. It was so hot. And I remember walking over, there was a mop sink in the middle of the gym. And I remember walking over and turning this thing on and just sticking my head under it. And, to know me, like that's highly unusual for me. Like I can usually handle heat pretty well, being raised in the deep South. I mean, I was raised in
Yeah,
Mississippi, it was so brutal. I thought I was going to die. It was
yeah.
the worst workout of my life.
Heat is the one thing I can't handle. It's if I'm hot, it's gonna be a bad time. It's just gonna be as soon as I feel it.
Well, it's probably a good time to give a disclaimer to anyone that listens to this. If you end up in the extra heat in Murph, do not do it for time. Just do it for completion. Drink a lot of water, pour water over your head, take a cold towel, put it in your neck. Like, just go for completion.
Yeah,
Don't go to knock this thing out in, 40 minutes or less with a vest on. You'll kill yourself. And then
yeah,
you'll end up puking like you're talking about. It's just not worth
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Absolutely not worth it. Well, good luck in semis. There's some prizes on the line for you,
yeah.
including one I've been raising. So I'd like to write you a check. I think that'd be fun.
That would be fun for both of us, I guess.
I was thinking today, no offense to any of the European competitors or people around the world, but I'm like, I need a lot of these adaptive athletes that I'm gonna write checks to be in the US because it'll be easier for me to get the money to them.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I don't know how many. I know there's a few lowers who are European. There's a short stature, and then I'm sure there's a few different ones. Did I lose you?
Oh, we're back. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
My whole computer shut down. Like I have no idea what happened. That was weird. Anyway, we're back.
Okay.
It's gonna make my editing a big nightmare, but it's all good. Just for the fun of it, I'm gonna switch us back to where we were. I just like this whole setup is new for me, and this is like a really fancy iMac that all this is running on, and it literally just like rebooted. No idea why.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, here we are. So where were we? I was saying, oh, good. Yeah, I was telling you good luck and
Yeah, the
the
semi.
semis write you a check, and I'm trying to make sure everyone in the U.S. wins.
Yeah. Well, we'll just make them weird percentage or weird weights that the Europeans and everyone who's using kg won't be able to do easily.
Yeah. Well, look, who knows? I actually don't care who wins. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd love to see you win, but I think it's hopefully, this year's competition will, put more visibility on
Yeah.
the divisions. And, I want to see them continue to grow because I think they're really fun. I think it's great for our community to build out these divisions. I don't mean to make assumptions for next gym, but I got to believe there's not a huge dwarf community working out there or anywhere for that matter. And the more people we can get in the gyms, just the
Yeah.
richer our community becomes. And
Yeah.
so hopefully the games can highlight that.
Yeah. I'm really hoping it. Just because I know the outlets other dwarfs will take is just like they'll go for doing the things that are going to get them fame, whether it's being a TikToker or whatever, doing the bar stool boxing,
Right.
that is just a clown show. Um, it, it it just cracks me up whenever I see it because I know that it's not legitimate. Like these guys are,
Right.
they're doing one I think this weekend, and like the two guys are like 30-pound difference, and like that's not a fight. Like that's a
Right.
a beating. And yeah, it just, also being with my background of my wrestling background and taekwondo, I'm like, I know that these guys aren't that tough. They're just
Right.
brawling. Like, I'm like, if they really wanted to go after somebody who was actually worth a damn, they'd ask me. But
Right.
I wouldn't do it ever.
Well,
Not.
I just think when you look at, all the adaptive divisions, the ones that aren't going to Madison, particularly, the neuro division, the vision, short stature,
Mhm.
what are the other two? um,
The seated.
yes. You know, the ones that aren't going to Madison, I think, what could be better for any of these groups and to get them involved in something that will improve health and wellness. And that goes for anyone, not just
Yeah.
adaptive athletes, but you think about our communities and what they're like, and every gym I've been in has been very, very similar, kind of in age ranges, and you usually have a bunch of kids between the ages of 25 and 35, and then now you're starting to get more masters athletes because they can
Yeah.
afford CrossFit. They've
Yeah.
have disposable income, so I think you end up with a lot of people that kind of fall between that age range of 35 to maybe mid 50s, but
Yeah.
you don't get a lot of people on the top end, and you don't get a lot of vision impaired or neuro or
Yeah.
and I would just like to see more of that, because I think the general health and wellness is obviously great for everyone, but I think it's great for the community to learn from each other, because it will help people not be fearful to have conversations like this, to actually ask questions without fear of insulting you.
Yeah. Exactly. It. I think it's one of the most untapped markets there is just the disabled communities. Um, like I forget what the stat is. I always hear, but like the number of people in the world that will have will be an adaptive, will have to adapt to some sort of
Right.
disability, whether short term or long term, at some point in their life. Um, it just that or the number of it's been crazy since I started just randomly posting videos of myself lifting. Um, and I blew up one day because Fit reposted something of mine. But from then, I've had parents who were following me, then have children who have dwarfism that were like, holy shit, I do CrossFit. This guy who I follow who has dwarfism and I thought was just a cool CrossFitter is automatic. Like he's somebody that I can see that my kid can be like when he grows up, or I know that I can do this with my my little boy or little girl when they're older, and it's something they can want to do. And I get videos all the time of them doing a workout in their gyms, or doing something around the house, and like with a mop or something. Like I post randomly of my son sometimes, and it makes me happy knowing that they have something that they can look forward to, and it's a sport of sorts that's growing. And it just I I know I didn't have like role models that had dwarfism when I was growing up. The role model I had was Wee Man, and
Right.
that was once again that part of my brain that was missing. I was doing stupid shit that I probably shouldn't have been doing, and uh, but somehow surviving it.
Well, let's be fair, Jackass was a great show.
Oh, it was.
It was a great show.
It gave me confidence
Yeah.
that I could do stuff, but it was probably stuff that I shouldn't be doing.
No, I hear what you're saying though. Like, when I started posting stuff for the adaptive division, when I started fundraising, one of the first posts I did was for Kim, or, her screen name's like Kim
Yeah,
Possible or something, and she's in the vision division. And within minutes of doing a post, someone messaged me and said I had no idea there were sight impaired athletes in CrossFit. It was a brother or a sister or someone that, I should get into this. And I was like, man, that's really powerful. When you realize others are doing it, that power of representation, how it draws others in, that you think, well, they would do it if they wanted to. Well, maybe
yeah,
they don't even know it's available to them.
yeah,
And so I just think that's really, really cool. And I appreciate how you're leading the way and leading from the front to drive people in, because it's going to drive in more than just people into the short stature division. It's going to drive people into all of the divisions, which is great.
Yeah, and that's what our goal is to grow the adaptive divisions, help adaptive the community grow, and to reach more people, to give people an outlet, to show them that they can do things, and just to lead healthier lives.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about community a little bit, kind of in our last 10 or 15 minutes here. And really kind of the impact it's had on you and your family. I know we've talked a few times over the last few weeks. You guys have had a loss recently.
Yeah.
And I don't know how sensitive we want to get into this, but I'm going to leave that to you. But I guess it's kind of my question is like the impact of the CrossFit community and them, the friends you've picked up and how they've rallied around you. How's that been for your family since your loss?
It's been great. The last 2 years have been tough with our two daughters that we've lost over the last 2 years, and it's been a blessing to have CrossFit and the CrossFit communities. I know nothing says family like people that are reaching out to you during these times, when you suffer a loss of a child or loved one. I know I was taken back when I was at the Wheelwad Games in November, and Kevin Stouty did a moment of silence for us and our daughter, because it was her 1-year birthday, but something that I kept to myself, that it was her birthday, but they knew, and they did it for me, and then getting flowers from the Wheelwad ladies at our daughter Margot's funeral, and cards from my gym and stuff, and wind chimes, and all sorts of things to help us remember them. And it's just it's been a real blessing. I think I know I hear you talk on here a lot about mental health and seeking it, and men have a hard time doing that. And I know myself, before ever having kids, I was terrible at sharing anything. My wife always used to give me a hard time that I would never open up about anything. And she's like, "You've never even cried." She made me. But it's just yeah, I really encourage people to get into the community, because the community grows into more than just gym buddies. It grows into family, and whether that's like just other adaptive athletes, your local gym affiliate members like you, or coaches at the gym. It's just it's CrossFit's a blessing for more than just physical health, but mental health, and it's definitely where I go to. It's where I do my meditation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, grief is it's overwhelming. That's even an understatement. I mean, I'm not even going to pretend like I can understand what you and your family have gone through, but I've had plenty of friends that have lost loved ones and children even, and I've seen the effects of grief on their lives. Is CrossFit something you've used to deal with that, or have you found other channels since then? Like, how are you working through it?
Yeah, it's CrossFit is one of the many medicines I've chosen to participate in. I do art therapy at our hospice that we've used. We have a great therapist there. Talk to them, and then you do art for however long you want. And our art has always been something that I've been into doing, drawing and stuff. But there was always in classes and never just on my own. And this is kind of something that does that. And but also just I've been playing the piano a little bit on my own, just trying to like do stuff, and going to therapy. And yeah, I'm fully able to tell people that I go to therapy, and it's just I try to help people realize that it's okay to go to therapy, and it's
Yeah,
okay.
there's no shame in the therapy
Yeah,
game. None.
and that's something that it took me forever to realize. And I was like, holy shit, I should be doing this.
Right.
Why the fuck haven't I been?
Right. Yeah. Look, I've told the story a number of times on the air that when I went through my divorce, at this point, it's been, over 15 years, but spent time in therapy dealing with it. And it was invaluable. And I still use some of those lessons even today that I learned then. It's like going to school. Kind of, they teach you your triggers and what works and what doesn't. And you carry that with you. It doesn't fill the void of, that you're dealing with grief, but it helps you deal with it.
Yeah.
And, it is tough as a dude to have to do that. And I've joked for years that CrossFit kind of became my new therapy because I could go in there and beat myself up for an hour. But outside of the beating up part, it gives you that hour of kind of escapism that I think is often needed to, kind of, forget isn't the right term. It's it gives you an outlet.
It's like your place. You're like I don't want to say
Of something to focus, like a safe place.
safe place.
It's a community. It's a family. You get to know people. Get the routine. There's so much that comes from it. It doesn't. It should not be used in the place of therapy. But I certainly think that hardcore physical exercise certainly helps to.
It gets the juices going. It gets all the endorphins and all that going, and so it helps you.
Yeah. Tell me about your son. How's he doing?
He's doing great. That kid is a animal. I don't know how he has any brain cells in his head because of he's all me in that sense, because he climbs on everything. He's got a scar on his forehead like me already because he fell off the toilet and busted his head open pretty good. And then within 2 minutes of that, while he's still bleeding, starts climbing on one of our cabinets. The kid is crazy. He's excited. He wants to go to the gym with me all the time. He has his own little barbell.
Perfect.
Throws down.
Perfect.
So I always sometimes will jokingly put like the future fittest dwarf on earth in pictures with him, just because he's crazy.
How old is he now?
He's 4, and he's all 4. Luckily we got out of the 3s, which is the worst age ever.
It's a rough age. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he was one of those like surprising kids that like he starts sleeping at like maybe 2 months, like all the way through the night, like maybe feed him for 30 minutes in the night, but he like goes to sleep right away. And then he was quiet, super sweet kid, and then 3 came, and a demon was unleashed, and he's wild.
Those days pass very quickly.
Yes, I'm soaking him up and enjoying him because I know sooner or later he's not going to want to be around me.
Well, look, he's reaching that age where you will be taking him to the gym 5 days a week, and based on the number of people in your division, he might take your crown sooner than later. You might want to be careful how quick you get him in.
Yeah, I'll have to retire before he becomes eligible.
Look, don't retire until somebody takes your crown. That should be the rule. Like that, I've thought that forever. Like I've always respected Matt for leaving after 5 because I thought, all right, that's cool. He made a boatload of money. But then there's the other side of me. It's like, no, just keep winning until somebody beats you. And then walk away. I think that's cool too.
Yeah, I maybe I'll do like my idol growing up, Michael Jordan. I'll win 3, stop, and then start again.
Perfect.
Just to show people that I can.
Just walk around with all the medals. All the medals. I saw someone in your division. It wasn't in the short stature division, but it was someone in adaptive today. I forget his name off the top of my head. He posted his urine test in his story. I'm like, it didn't even occur to me they were testing the adaptive division. So I'm like, that's amazing. I love it.
A urine test?
Yeah, P test, drug test. They drug tested him.
Oh,
It's great. I'm like, it didn't occur to me they were testing the adaptive
Yeah,
division, and I was like, man, that I would not only was I blown away by it, but I'm like, that's really cool. Like
yeah.
for me, that's a step that the
Well,
adaptive
yeah, no.
being treated like everyone else, which is great.
Yeah, we have to be tested because I know when we signed the handbooks and stuff, it said like uh, in-person competition and stuff like that. You have to get tested, and for winning money, might as well because if there's money on the line, somebody's gonna find a way to cheat.
Well, that's one more reason why I'm not competing, because I'm a nervous peer and I'm not peeing in front of somebody. That's my rule.
Yeah, I used to always be the person in our high school, and it was kind of a joke that like I was the one who'd get called down always because they knew I was gonna pass. They're like, "Oh, he's an athlete. He's always gonna pass. Like, just call him down." Like, I'd get called down like 3 semesters in a row, and be like, "I thought like you were supposed to have like not be. It was supposed to be random. It's always me." So
Ain't nobody tested me, bro. No one's ever going to test this old guy. Well, before we wrap up, just a couple more things. I wanted to, what do you have coming up the next couple of weeks? As you're gearing up to go make your run at the title, is there anything you do special in your last 2 weeks to get ready, or are you just business as usual?
business as usual. I don't really ramp it up. I might take a few more days than usual off, and just try to make sure that I'm not doing anything in the gym that's stupid. Not putting anything super heavy overhead, or doing too high a volume. Like I might just because of where Murph is this year, I might have to wait a week to do it, just because I don't want to blow up my quads and knees too much. I'm I'm not the 24-year-old I was that I started. I'm 30 and now I have tendonitis in my knees, and so I have to worry about that volume.
Dude, my nanos are 30. You're not going to get any sympathy from the 50-year-old because you're 30. But I understand your point. Don't do Murph until after semis.
Yeah,
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Not worth it.
If the elite athlete shouldn't do Murph until after their semis done. They'd be crazy to. Like, I know it's it's a different thing when you're Justin Medeiros, but still, like,
Yeah,
that's a big workout. Don't
a lot
waste
of
your time with
volume.
that.
A lot of volume to potentially hurt yourself.
Yeah. Well, if everyone wants to check out Mikey on Instagram, I've got if you're watching this, I put a screen name up on the screen. So Mikey Swoosh One on Instagram. But if you're listening, that's what it is too. And check it out, because I think you guys will really be inspired. I know I am, Mikey. Every time I watch what you post, I think you post great stuff. And it's always really interesting to me to see kind of how your training evolves and what you work on, and the similarities and the differences that we have in training. But to your kind of one of your first points, how the intensity is always there, and it's really, really cool to me. So I got my fingers crossed for you, my friend. I'm hoping to write you a check one way or another. That's for sure. Are you going to go to Madison? You guys going to go to the games?
I'm not. I have a fishing trip in July that I have planned already, so I cannot be going to Madison this year. Hopefully next year I'm forced to do it because it'll be in person. Hopefully by then.
Fingers crossed. Let's hope so. Where's the next in-person competition?
For us, it'd be Wheel Wad games in November.
All right. And where are those, and where are they actually?
Raleigh, North Carolina. So it'll be fun. They just got a huge facility for competition, and hopefully we get a big show. We can put on a big show for people, just because last year it was a decent sized crowd, but COVID still was just kind of causing crazy.
Well, it's the South, man. Nobody's paying attention to COVID in the South anymore. Trust me. I got a sister in North Carolina. Maybe I can get down there this year. That could be fun.
That'd be fun, yeah.
All right, dude. Well, thanks for joining the show. Appreciate you coming on, telling your story. And for everyone listening, once again, go check out Mikey's stuff, Mikey Swoosh One on Instagram, and follow him on the leaderboard, probably right at the top of the leaderboard of the CrossFit Games. And appreciate you guys joining us live and on the apps, and we will chat with you guys soon.